It'll be one to go this time by. Coming to the green, buddy, coming to the green. Let's go get him. Go, 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 Dick, 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 go, 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 go.
Get your motor running. Head out on the highway.
Process to get your arms around it.
I think it's just the property of the car. We figured out a lot of the short track stuff early. It was a little easier process, we think, because we got so much more of a head start on it. But then last year, middle of the season, you're trying to race two different styles of cars, trying to keep up with all the changes week to week. Just changing parts and pieces and the haulers and stuff is a big project, much less trying to go test to get yourself ahead. So playing the catch-up game a little bit now, but I think we're making headway.
Why it's been so difficult for the drivers to really get their arms around those tracks?
Well, I don't think it's the drivers have had such a hard time figuring the tracks out. It's just, you know, it's a learning process of learning a new style of car that is a very technical race car. I mean, when you're dealing with bump stops and bump rubbers and shims and everything else, the packers that you're using in these front shocks, it's very easy to get a car unbalanced, I believe. So that's why it makes it so critical right now to when you get the car in that window seems to be smaller to keep the car adjustable during the race, and if it's not close to start with, you're not going to get it the rest of the way there. You very easily, just like last week, we had a car that was decent during 2/3 of the race, and the last third of the race we tried to make it better, and ultimately ended up making it really, really bad, trying to make it better. So it's a car that is very sensitive to change and what you can and can't do with it. And I don't know that it's so much been a handle for the drivers as much as it's been a challenge for entire organizations to figure out what that car really likes and dislikes, and what we can do as drivers, what the crew chiefs and engineers can do to make that window of balance be a little bit bigger and wider, where we can keep the cars nicer during the race.
Ed Hinton, ESPN.com again. Tony, could you talk a little bit about when you, from driving go-karts on up through driving that wrecker down Georgetown Road and thinking about the Speedway, could you talk about who your major racing heroes and role models were? I think we know one of them. And then could you also talk about, are there people out there somewhere in the NASCAR series now that you see and you look at them sort of like A.J. Foyt spotted Tony Stewart? In other words, that kid's going to be really good. Could you talk about your heroes and who you see as people to come like A.J. spotted you?
Obviously, Foyt's always been my number one hero. Steve Kinser was in World Outlaw Racing, Rick Mears was in IndyCar racing. You see guys every day. I mean, there's so many young guys that are running different types of cars right now that there's not just one or two guys that stand out anymore. I mean, you literally look, in Indiana and you see a couple kids. You look somewhere else, you see a couple more. There's a lot of young talent out there that's good talent. So, that's the good thing about the future of auto racing is we're not going to lack in the talent category with guys coming up.
Dustin Long, Landmark Newspapers. Tony, a lot of people looking into the chase will look at Kyle and Carl as the favorites, possibly Jimmy with his run lately. Why should somebody consider, look at you as a title contender or even any of the other guys?
Well, because we're in it, first of all. I mean, you got to be in it to win it. So, just making the chase in itself is an accomplishment. You're not a weak team if you've made the chase, but those three teams and drivers that you've mentioned, I mean, obviously their track record speaks for itself this year, so that's why people are putting those guys ahead of everybody else right now.
Justin, does that, Tony, from many years of experience, I expect that you're going to take the chase one race at a time, but
that'd be a great guess.
But what I'm getting at is one of the reasons that is important is that you really don't know what type of strategy it would take. For instance, it would take a different strategy the year that you won than last year. It might take some kind of divinely inspired strategy to beat Jimmy Johnson's performance last year.
Which, if we were to use that strategy, we'd definitely have to consult with you first to, get ourselves in the right mind frame.
Are you interviewing me now?
Sorry,
Okay.
go ahead, Monty.
All right.
Even if we didn't go with that strategy, we would consult with you first anyway because of your depth and well, yeah. But see, that's why we call you our secret weapon. So.
Tony, Tom Jensen, SpeedTV.com, back in the cheap seats. You've always spoken your mind. You've always been a free spirit. You had a pretty wide-open interview in Rolling Stone in the most recent issue. Have you gotten any feedback either from drivers saying, man, I wish I had the guts to say some of the things you said, or any sponsors say, geez, I wish you wouldn't have said that? And since you did that, you know, should and can others be so candid as you are?
We've had both of those, actually. I mean, we've had a lot of drivers that have called and commented to us about they were glad that somebody was open like that. But, you know, it's still a balancing act. I mean, it's, you know, obviously that's a publication that is edgy anyway. And it's a delicate balancing act of, you know, what NASCAR talked about early in the year about drivers showing personalities more and at the same time still being a corporate spokesman. So I think it was a little edgier than we would have liked to have been. But at the same time, you know, it is what it is now, and, you know, a month from now, everybody will forget that, and there'll be something else new to talk about.
Jay Pennell, HardcoreRaceFans.com. Tony, we've seen drivers like Jeff Gordon struggle this year with a new car in the Chevrolet. How will switching back to Chevrolet in this new car, what's that going to take? Do you think you're going to have to struggle with that, or how much would Darian help you adjust to switching back to Chevrolet?
I can promise you that'll be an easy switch for me. You know, that's the least of my concerns. I mean, that's a proven variable that's been consistent for more years than I've been a part of this sport, and will continue to be after I've left this sport. So that's one variable you don't have to worry about. Chevy's package. I mean, you look at the history books, and it's easy to figure out that that's not going to be the smallest part of the equation is that change. So that's the one that you know, we have a lot of confidence in right off the bat. So there's a lot of other things we have to work on other than that.
Yeah, Tony. Dave Fairbank with the Newport News Daily Press. Has assembling a team and everything that's gone into that, has that affected your focus or ability to compete on the track this year, do you think?
Not at all. I mean, you know, obviously that's why this morning's important. I mean, for both Darian and myself, I mean, we both have jobs to do outside of what we're doing next year for the remainder of this year. So, you know, once we both leave this press conference, we'll shift gears and be back to what we're really here for this week, and that's Darian, you know, working for Hendrick Motorsports and myself working for Joe Gibbs Racing the remainder of the year. So, you know, it was important to be here today to inform you guys of what's going on officially, and once we get that done, it's going back to what we have to do and what we're passionate about for the rest of the year before we get a chance to you know, do this job together next year.